Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we'll take a look at a recent project that we produced on location. I'll break down some of the gear I used on this project and also talk a bit about how I use my action cameras to add value and make life easier for us in post. Stick around and I'll show you how I use them on 2 full days of production and how I set them up so that they'll never overheat. This production was a bit different than the typical jobs that we work on. It was shot for a client that we've worked with for the past several years, and we've shot quite a few projects for them. We've gotten to film interviews on location and in studio. We also produced some marketing materials, and most recently we shot a commercial for broadcast television for them, which I'll be talking more about in an upcoming video. So this particular client is one that is really a best case scenario type of relationship because they're not only super easy to work with, but they're always really receptive to our ideas and our input. And this project here was a good example of that. They were planning to build a new set in their showroom, and they came to us with the idea of producing a time lapse that would take place over a 2-day period. They thought it would be a great opportunity to film their installation process and then use the footage in a variety of ways, one of which would be for training purposes. They leaned on us to ultimately decide what the deliverables would be. We often collaborate with clients in this way, and I enjoy being able to brainstorm and build out different deliverables for clients based on their needs. It forces me to approach a project beyond just thinking about the gear and equipment that I might need. While on set, I'm also thinking about the edits that we'll be cutting together, and this helps inform the shots that I'll need to capture on the actual shoot day, and it helps make life easier and more efficient when we're working in post-production. Whenever possible, I like to capture as much coverage as possible, and getting creative with framing or capturing a scene from multiple angles at once. This can be super helpful by allowing us to cut to different cameras, which can not only keep the videos interesting and engaging, but is also just an overall great way to add value for your client and to the end result. As I often mention, my wife is a producer, and we've been running our own production company for over 10 years. And one of the things that I enjoy most is that every job is our own show. So we're able to approach a project on how we best think it'll serve the client. We use the equipment we want based on the unique needs of the job, and it gives us creative freedom and control to provide the best possible end result that we can. Clients nowadays just want an end-to-end solution for video, and being able to provide everything from pre to post-production has been invaluable to our success over the years. We're just a husband and wife team that is lean by design. We've got additional crew that we can call on when needed, and depending on a client's needs or budget, we can scale up or down. Being malleable and able to adapt has served us extremely well over the years, and we've developed a system that really works well for us. Developing ideas and deliverables in the pre-production phase allows us to build a greater relationship with the client and also helps us to better understand their needs and their goals. As we collaborate with them, together we'll ask and find the answer to questions like, why are we shooting this? How will it ultimately serve you and your company or your brand? And what is it that we're trying to convey to the end viewer? In terms of lighting gear for this job, I just needed to flood the working area with enough light to create a large, even spread across the frame. To do that, I used an Aperture 300D and the Molus G200, each in a 4-foot softbox and positioned on either side of our set. To give the scene a bit more level and to help even things out, I used an Aperture 120D with the Fresnel attached and just pushed that up into the ceiling. I turned off the showroom lights, which included the overhead fluorescents, along with some other tungsten bulbs and fixtures like chandeliers. This obviously helped keep the lighting in our set clean and neutral, but it also gave the installers plenty of good working light for the install. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this was 2 full days of production. We started with a blank space in the corner of the showroom, so the first thing I needed to do was set up the angle and the positioning of the main camera. This was the FX30 on a tripod, and once that was set up, it would live in the same position for the entirety of the shoot. You can see here I've got it pointed into the corner of the space with a wide enough field of view so that it covered the working area from edge to edge. I let this camera run all day and shot in a lower bitrate codec to help save space. Even though this was essentially our A camera, we would likely speed this footage up and cut to tighter close-ups, which I shot on the FX6. I used the 28-135. I love this lens, and I use it on all kinds of jobs because of its versatility. I set the camera up on a dolly so it was easy to move around and get the close-ups I needed without being in the way of the installers or the materials that were placed just outside of frame. One good thing about this job was that there was no need to capture audio. We worked with the client to develop a script, which we then hired a voice actor for, and once the edit was complete, we would just drop the VO over top of the video. If you're like me, you first started using action cameras to capture things like fun personal moments, family adventures, and BTS content. But the more I used them, I started to find ways to implement them professionally on set. Since we knew what we wanted to create in post-production, I knew that we would benefit from having more angles and more footage to work with. It's always better to have more than what you need when it comes to working in post, and the additional footage would help keep the edits interesting and also make the end product more engaging than your typical training video. As I often do, I overpacked once again on this job, and knowing I had the action cameras with me, I decided to use them, and I'm glad I did. As long as you dial in the proper settings and give a camera sensor enough light, you can get great results from pretty much any camera nowadays. And that was the case here. The footage is great, and we'll definitely be using it in the edit. I set one camera up to capture a time lapse and another to roll and provide us with another option and angle to cut to. The great thing about using them on this job was that they provided bonus footage and made things easier in post-production. And it wouldn't have been a big deal if, for whatever reason, they malfunctioned or the footage wasn't usable. As far as how I set them up to not overheat, I first removed the internal battery and then ran them off of USB-C power. I left the battery doors open to allow for more airflow and also had them in a camera cage, which can help aid in dissipating heat. I let them run continuously for 2 full days, and they performed flawlessly. They never overheated, and running 4 cameras in total on this job gave us lots of options in post. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And check out this video here where I talk you through the challenges I faced while having to shoot documentary-style interviews in a dark room. See you in the next one.